Hi and welcome to another episode of Peacemake TV. In this quick tip for WooCommerce, I'm going to try to explain how you can deal with creating more complicated flat rate shipping fees based upon things like the quantity in the basket and so on. So if you haven't seen the basics, I'd recommend going and checking that out. I'll put a link in the description below so you can take a look at the video that covers the basics of shipping in WooCommerce. And this is a kind of advanced topic, but I'm going to go over it quite quickly. So let's check all that out right now. Okay, so out of the box, WooCommerce isn't necessarily the best when it comes to shipping options. One of the things you get in is basically free e-commerce software with some limitations. And the aim is that when you start to sort of go past the basics that you have available, you move on up and you start buying some add-ons and plugins that give you more features, more functionality. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can take some of the basics we covered in the previous video, link is in the description below, covering how to set up the basics of flat rate shipping in WooCommerce. And we're going to take a look at how we can expand upon that without having to shell out any money whatsoever. Now, this is kind of a complicated topic and something that a good practical example should get you started, but I'd recommend experimenting with some of the options available because there are a lot. Okay, so we've got a flat rate shipping set up in front of us. As you can see, we've got a flat rate shipping fee, which is the title for it, and we've got no tax status, but we've got a cost of £4 or $4, whatever currency you're working in, per item. So when an item is purchased, there's a £4 shipping fee added onto it. That's great if you order one item, but what happens if you order several items and you start to get more expensive shipping costs? Well, obviously you need to pass that on to the customer. So we can do that quite easily. We can add a base cost, which is this one, the £4. We can then go through and we can add some additional shipping costs to it based upon the shipping method that's chosen on the product. Now I have two set up, medium and small shipping, which I can apply prices to. And we've got a no shipping cost. So if we don't apply a shipping cost to it, that's our fallback. Again, these are covered in the other video, so I'd recommend checking that if you're not too comfortable working with the basics of WooCommerce shipping options. So like I say, we've got a £4 basic charge. So for the medium shipping, we're going to apply a different charge onto that. So we're going to say we're going to add an extra £1. And for the small shipping charge, we're going to add an extra 50p. Okay, pretty cool. Very easy. So now if we save that out, we'd end up, if someone bought an item, it would be £4 flat charge. And then based upon the item itself, whether it's medium or small shipping, would either be £5 in total or £4.50. But this is no matter how many they purchase. Kind of gets a little bit unwieldy very quickly. So what you can do is you can start adding a charge based upon the quantity of the items that someone purchases. Now to do that, we can start using some formulas. So if you're used to something along the lines of Excel, Microsoft Excel, or you're dealing with sort of spreadsheets and things like that every day, you're going to kind of feel pretty comfortable with this. It's pretty simple and straightforward, but you can get a lot more complex with it. So let's just say that we want to base this additional charge, the small and the medium shipping charge, on top of the base price based upon the quantity of the order. Well, we can do that quite easily. We can just simply put in the base charge and we can put in the medium shipping charge. And then what we can do is we can say multiplied, open square brackets, and we can put QTY for quantity and close square brackets. So what we're saying is £4 plus £1 per item. So in other words, multiply that £1 charge by the number of items in the basket. We could do exactly the same then for the small shipping charge, and we could just use the brackets, QTY, close the brackets. Okay, so what that's doing, like I say, is it's multiplying that additional shipping charge on top of the base rate. So let's just save those changes, making sure the calculation type in this example is per class. So you can see we've got per class or we've got per order, charge shipping for the most expensive shipping class. Well, we'll go for that one for this one. And again, it really comes down to what you want to do and how you set your shop up and how you want to deal with your shipping charges. For this example, we're going to keep it per order. So we'll hit Save Changes. That's now saved that shipping method and those calculations we put in there. We're going to jump over now into our shopping basket where I've got an item with a shipping class applied to it. And as you can see, we have a flat rate shipping fee of £5. In other words, it's got the £4 base charge and the £1 additional charge because this is set as a medium item. So what will happen if I change this to be a quantity of 2? We'll simply update our basket. And you'll see now our shipping charge goes up to £6 because we've got that £4 base charge, and then we've got the £1 additional charge multiplied by the quantity. So that gives us our £6. So that's a way that you can easily go in and set a quantity additional charge onto your base charge. Obviously, you don't need to set a base charge in if you don't want to. You can wipe that out, and you can set a per item charge just in the medium or the small in this example on the flat rate shipping fee. So we could set these to be any kind of number we wanted and take out the cost for the flat shipping fee. I hope that kind of makes sense. Like I say, it's not the easiest thing to grasp, but try it out and you'll see how it works for yourself. What I'd always recommend is make sure that you update and empty your cart before you make changes to this, because otherwise it doesn't necessarily reflect the changes you make because things are cached. Okay, let's take this one step further now with another example. Now we've seen how to do some basics on there. We can just multiply the fees by the quantity. How about if we want to get a more complicated kind of situation where maybe, for example, we want to charge a £10 base fee and then we want to charge a percentage on top of that based upon the number of items? Well, we can do something like that quite easy. So if we just use something along this line, so we've got 10, which is the flat fee that we're charging, plus open those square brackets, the fee percent equals 20. Now there was 20% charge on top. So let's just save the changes on there. So now we know at this point we've got a £10 flat fee plus 20% of the order total. Okay, so let's go take a look at that in action. So we jump over and we'll just say we've got a quantity of 2 and we'll update the basket. You can see we now have a flat rate shipping fee of £16, which is the £10 flat fee and then 20% of the order total. So the order total being £30. Okay, so hopefully that's giving you an indication. Now you can do something else. You can get it even more complicated if you want to. Just jump back onto our flat fee. We'll just add a little bit more to this. So we'll say we want to add a minimum fee of £2. So we add that extra piece of information in there. So we're saying £10 plus 20% of the order total and a minimum fee of £2 on top of that. So let's just hit Save Changes. Jump back over to this, set the quantity to be 1 and update our basket. And there's our charge. So we've got our minimum fee added to that, we've got our base fee added to that. Let's jump back in now and we'll just update that again. So we'll come back in and change our flat rate shipping fee to £4 this time, so our minimum fee. So we'll hit Save Changes and we'll come back over to this and we'll set our quantity to be 2. So that gives us our £16 charge, which is correct. That's our 20% on top of our base £10. Because we've gone over the minimum charge, it's applied that. So what will happen this time is if we go down to 1, that'll give us a shipping fee of £14 instead of the the £13 we would have had. Hope that makes sense. It's kind of getting a little bit confusing at the moment. But hopefully what this has done is it shows you can get a lot more creative and a lot more complex with the fees that you want to start adding up when it comes to shipping. You're not limited to just those very, very basic calculations. Now, there are tons and tons of different options you can use in this, and I'll link through to an article in the documents for WooCommerce that'll give you some more examples of this and some more information on it. So hopefully what this can do is it'll give you a head start on how you can use these calculations, and then you can take a look and find something that kind of meets your requirements. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to take it above and beyond the basic video that we covered before. Hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all the new content we add every single week. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback on this video, or anything else we cover on the channel, please pop those in the comments section below. And until next time, take care.